we're starting to see a lot of politicians, senators, representatives, governors, that they're deciding to resign from office and not want to have anything further to do with politics, or feel that, their party is not going the right direction. They don't want to participate. And I feel like it's hopeful for like instigating change, but is it enough to really make true change in how we do politics in this country?
We need more than that. That's a good thing. Those people, those individuals can't take anymore. They can't stomach maybe what they've seen, some things that maybe they're privy to that the rest of the public may not be privy to. Maybe it's based off what they see and, is being shown in the news. And they're trying to make a statement, walk away from politics. I mean, we're at a crossroads. America is having a spiritual crisis. It's an existential crisis happening right now, and everybody has to participate.
Yeah, it feels like everything's just going crazy all at once, and it's like one fire like doesn't even go out; it just dies down a little bit. You have another bonfire pop up over here.
Yeah. Everybody's gotta participate.
And then I've like getting people's attention. Like so many people are wrapped up in, whatever vices they have, even if they're not bad. Just like, if it's your phone, TikTok, anything, like getting attention to something that's important is really hard to do.
Yeah, well, America needs to have a discussion about itself and about its history. That's what's going to heal it. Mm-hmm. That's what it has to do. And it has to stop all the tricks. And the people have to demand that all the tricks are stopped.
Mm-hmm. Well, it trickles down from the top, which, the perceived top for us is the president, Washington, D.C., like the federal government. Like that's who's supposed to be directing us, right?
But that's not how it looks at the top. Mm-hmm. It's a different perspective from the top. The top is trying to give the people what they want. So if, the people, you can say Donald Trump made the people demand for him or the people demanded for him, because government is a response to the people. Now, what government has to decide is that it's not going to treat one demographic of people different than another demographic, like in this particular case of trying to divide and conquer is what it's doing. Mm-hmm. So that it maintains power and the people don't have the power. But a true democracy is when the people have the power. Mm-hmm. A democratic republic or a constitutional republic or whatever it is, that document ensures that the people have the power and that government, this is a form of government that is supposed to serve the people. And so what it's doing is the government is using the people using its power to keep the people divided. And so what happens is, and then it selects one small part of the overall demographic that it chooses to serve. Mm-hmm. And then it thinks that constitutes serving the people. Right. And then it just misleads the majority of the other people that are not being served. And that's one aspect of looking at it. Mm-hmm. But within that same song and dance, the government is trying to respond to, Donald Trump wouldn't exist if there was not so much of a large demographic, whether it is the legitimate majority, but whether he got 70 million votes. Donald Trump shouldn't have gotten more than 100,000 votes.
Right. Well, I feel like it's hard when you're at a place and time in our society and politics where it feels like your representatives have no accountability to their constituency.
Well,
You know
the
what I
peak
mean?
because the constituency is not holding them accountable.
That's true.
So
But
it's it's a dance.
mhm,
It's the people aren't holding them accountable. The government, the representatives know how to nudge the people in the right way, so the people don't hold them accountable. They know how to play a game, so they're not held accountable, and the people choose to fall for the tricks. The people choose to be misled. The people, you know what I mean? They make the choice to be misled. They make the choice to believe the bullshit.
well, and it also feels like, you get your candidates and it's like bad and worse. You know what I mean? Like it's, I can't remember a recent election where it felt like we had two strong candidates that you felt like, whether or not you agreed on their politics entirely, could lead, you felt confident in their leadership skills of the country.
Well, this is what I think should, part of what should happen. The right people have to step up for government. Now, across this country, you've got a lot of you've got a lot of decent white men that are, maybe a part of some church somewhere. Maybe they're not. Maybe they don't need to be a part of a church. They're successful in their own right. They don't want to deal with government. They
Right.
would be fair. They would do the right thing in government. They have
Yeah.
ran fair businesses. They might be aware of themselves and know what system they participate in, and they still try to create fair opportunities for the job creations. And you've got some fair-minded, white guys out here that could see getting into government as their responsibility, and they don't want to do that for whatever reason. But this is so you get the majority of the people that do end up getting into government. They got some slime on their hands.
They got some slime. They'll get paid to, by lobbyists.
Well, because they in
They'll,
it for the slime. That's
yeah.
why they play the game. You got people that want to play the slime. They want to get into the slime, and so and the guys that would not bring slime, that don't want to get into the slime, they stay away from politics because they don't want to get into the slime. But and then you get a guy run for president, which is he's like the Mucinex booger. And
the same color and everything.
yeah, he's like the Mucinex, and there's some utility to Trump. There's a lot. Listen, there's some utility. Trump is affording America a very spiritual moment. He can be remembered a lot of different ways. He's affording whether it's his intentions or not. I don't know. I can't speak to what his intentions are, but I know he is affording white America in particular an existential moment, because what's happening has happened to black people is now happening to their demographic. And so this is creating a spiritual moment, and black people shouldn't have this, because you hear a lot of these podcasters say we shouldn't get it. This ain't our fight. This ain't our fight. This is the fight for what's right in America. Your ancestors died and were for this country. This soil is soaked with slave blood. And so they got to understand what that means if they choose to get involved in politics in a full and right way. This land is soaked with slave blood. So we got to remember that. That's a spiritual power. And so I don't think it's a case where black people should not get involved because of the atrocities that's been visited upon us as a culture. Trayvon Martin, I still don't understand George Zimmerman's existence.
Right.
I don't get his existence.
Right.
And so, and that list is endless. You know, strange fruit, Nina
Right.
Simone.
Yeah.
But we still have to speak up against. We still have to speak up against the atrocity, whether it's happening to us or anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're the soul.
Yeah. I think one thing that it seems like the only reasonable explanation for Trump coming back into office and all the like the chaos that's happening is that America has just reached a point where it's just too saturated with corruption and slime, and it has to break.
Yeah,
Like the federal government has to break so that it can be rebuilt.
yeah,
And that maybe that's where we're in that beginning stages.
yeah. That's where we're at, and that is not a pretty sight.
Yeah.
But we can all participate in it in a way that expedites everything, and thing doesn't have to break down to the extent that people would want it to, just to see the train wreck.
Right.
We don't have to. It doesn't have to be a train wreck.
I mean, we as a country, as a society, we could, just take advice that was given to us by our forefathers.
Yeah,
Like George Washington in his farewell speech as president was a two-party system does not work.
yeah,
Like we could just listen.
yeah.
Like that might be just good advice.
Or we could, but it was the only way to do this thing, unless we need a 3-party system. I think a 3-party system is what would keep the other 2 parties balanced.
Yeah.
So that it creates the other 2 parties from going completely extreme. Because whenever you get a 2-party system, they're going to keep going extreme.
Oh yeah, they keep going to polarities.
Yeah, they're going to keep going. It's going to start back here, and then it's going to ultimately go back to the extreme polarities of each other. It's like a pendulum swing.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a 3rd-party system and you stop trying to force all these issues into the left or the right when this is not a left or right issue.
Yeah.
So you believe in this thing, and so you have to accept all these other things that you don't necessarily agree with, and so now this is what you're labeled as this. These are all your labels.
Yeah, and this is the only way you can vote.
And this is the only way you can vote. So these are all your labels.
Yeah, regardless of what you really think. I think it's interesting. Growing up in California, we have what my dad describes as the California Republican.
Yeah.
And California is kind of unique because it's very progressive. It's very much a blue state. We have a lot of rich people who really care about their money.
Yeah.
And so they want to take care of that. So you have, I think it's a great blend of someone who's fiscally responsible, but also has a social conscience and wants to take care of its constituency. And sometimes those are really hard to balance. But I think as a whole, if we took better care of our social care and making it real social care, and more fair about how we're taking care of our fiscal needs, I think we'd end up with a much happier, better country. I think a lot of countries in Europe are way ahead of us on this.
Yeah, a lot of countries are ahead of us. But we dealing with a group of people that just like to double down even when they know they're wrong.
Right.
They'll just keep doubling down and keep doubling down. And they know they're wrong.
It's the teenage years.
Yeah. It's just, I'm going to double down. But only we're dealing with adults that are doing that.
Right.
It's not a lot. It's much less fun when it's an adult that should be acting that like an adult and not double down on its negative behavior. That's literally the essence of what would separate an adult from a child. A child would double down on its negative behavior, but this is something that adults should know that it can't and shouldn't do.
It should have the maturity and the grace, like, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Let's switch direction.
Let's switch directions. Let's stop doubling down on it. And it takes, that's a sign of maturity, emotional maturity, spiritual maturity,
all the maturities we could hope for as a nation.
All the maturities we could hope for, social maturity, and we're just missing the marks on all of it, and nobody's having the right conversation None of these conversations are the right conversations. They're all about nitpicking little things. Soon as we find, um, any one little thing to gnaw away on, and they just everybody gnaws away on. Donald Trump fell asleep at a meeting. Let's not. I don't care. Let's talk about the picture, the big picture of what's happening. This spiritual crisis that America's having.
Mm-hmm.
That's the discussion we should have, and how to deal with this spiritual crisis. And it's not about religion. This is not a religious thing. They're trying to make it about religion, but it's not about religion. We have to have it. We have to decide how much we really care about this country and the people that are the soul of this country, which are the African Americans. White people are the spirit of this country. But black people, we're the soul of this country now, and that can be seen in. You can feel however you want to feel about that. Mm-hmm. That's just the reality of the way the country was designed and the rituals that designed this country and supports it as a living organism. Mm-hmm. The white population is the spirit and the black population is the soul.
And they're both equally important. They have different roles.
Yeah, and the spirit of the country can't say, oh, we don't need a soul. Guess what? Because you'll die. The spirit has no utility without the soul. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so just like on an individual basis, when a person is traumatized in a different way, that has to be discussed and get your head shrunk and take care of that so you can stop, recognize the patterns that have created the person that you are. If you're a self-sabotaging person because of having experienced a particular type of childhood, or you experienced some kind of an abuse and different varieties of abuse, and now it's created you into a specific type of adult, and you want to change those behavior patterns. Mm-hmm. And so in order to do that, you have to understand what created those behavior patterns. Yeah. And so that's the same thing. America has to have that kind of discussion with itself. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That slavery experience didn't just create behavior patterns in the soul of this country, the descendants of the slaves. It also created behavior patterns in the descendants of the white people. The majority of this country really lobbied against the abolishment of slavery.
Yeah.
You would think this was like a no-brainer, but no, that's not true. The majority of this country lobbied against ending slavery. Yeah. And, they even throw Abraham Lincoln under the bus and say, oh, he didn't really want to free the slaves. He just wanted to do this and do that. No, what if, let's just say for argument's sake, he was being a politician and he thought his legacy, the only thing that was important to his legacy was freeing those slaves, but he knew how to be a politician. Mm-hmm. And he knew how to get his way with what he actually wanted by denying that's the thing he actually wants.
Right.
Nothing is more important to him than freeing the slaves. But in politics, if they know that is the one thing you will never get.
Right.
When you're dealing with people that will double down on being wrong. So if he ever went on the record as saying, I want to free the slaves, they should be free, that'll never happen.
Right.
You'd still have slavery in this country if he didn't outsmart those politicians.
Right.
But in order to feed that same monster, they'll twist his meaning, knowing that they're all politicians, and say, oh, he didn't want to free the slave. He absolutely wanted to free the slaves. That's the only thing that was important to him.
Right. We look at how our politicians are today, and we think that they're not, playing sleight of hand now, and that. I'm probably mixing that up. We think politicians are they're liars generally. They're not telling you exactly what they think. So why do we think that's any different going in the past?
Because they're going to flip the cookie, they're going to flip the pancake over to the side that best serves them.
Yeah.
And so they know politician, the nature of politics.
Right.
And so they know the only thing was important to Lincoln was freeing those slaves, and he outsmarted everybody and got it done. That's why we memorialize him. Yeah. And they try to take that out of his legacy.
Yeah.
And say, no, that's not what he wanted to do. So he stripped the country in half, had the bloodiest war in history at that time, and it was for anything other than freeing those slaves.
Right. That was not the key issue at all.
Exactly. That's the only thing that war was about, was freeing those slaves.